The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now logged into WarUp On The WPIAL, featuring your hosts, Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome into a special edition of War Up on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson. Jeff, we have the section championships are complete in AA and AAA. A couple of surprises, but nothing too much on as far as the results go. Let's go ahead and start breaking those down for you, though, and we'll start in AAA and one of the toughest ones we talked about on the show earlier this week. Section 1, Kiski, they end up being the champions. They defeat Hempfield in the final, 43-24. Hempfield did beat Norwin in the first round, 40-19. So it's Kiski, Hempfield, Norwin, Greensburg, Salem, and Franklin Regional. Franklin Regional beat Latrobe 43-27.
Talk about a deep section. I mean, all four of these, or five of these teams that are going to be going are all very tough teams, and Kiski did what Kiski was expected to do. That match with Hempfield, though, had some really good matches, and actually Kiski was behind and actually came back, because if you see where they started at 195, and Brandon Roskowski got started well, beating Justin Kramer 3-2. But another big match for me that I saw was Enzo Meraki from Kiski beating Trevor Verklieren in ultimate tiebreaker. That was a pretty significant win for the Cavaliers. Now, the Cavaliers did give up a forfeit at 113 pounds. So, as expected, though, I think we weren't too surprised by these results.
Yeah, you look at that Kiski-Hempfield matchup. Troy Kuhn ends up getting a fall over Dylan Ferretti as well. That was big for huge, the Cavaliers, getting that 6-point win. 113, Kyle Burkholder's there, so Kiski gives up a forfeit, but anyone they put out there may end up giving up bonus anyway in that matchup. But what about the Hempfield win over Norwin? Were you surprised at the size of margin of victory for Hempfield?
I mean, I wasn't, because, I mean, when you look at it on paper, Hempfield got the matchups they wanted. They were able to get some bonus points where they needed to. Justin Kramer got bonus points. Isaiah Vance got bonus points, actually in both matches against Kiski as well. He pinned Stone Joseph. So they did what they had to do. They got Phipps on Bergnick, that was in favor of Hempfield because he only gave up a decision. So there was a few matches where I thought, like Chase Krantz from Norwin, he bumped up all the way to 152, and he lost to Verklieren in sudden victory. I was surprised to see him going up that high, but I mean, I wasn't surprised by the margin, because you knew if Hempfield got on a roll, they were going to do pretty well.
And Norwin ends up coming back for third place. They ended up beating Greensburg Salem for third place, 38-33. And in Franklin Regional, as mentioned, over Latrobe. So we have our top five in Section 1. Section 2, Thomas Jefferson was your champion. They first defeated Pierce Township 44-25. Connellsville over Mount Lebanon 50-30. That set up the rematches. Thomas Jefferson defeats Connellsville 35-33, another tight one. And Mount Lebanon over Peters Township 36-32. Fifth place, West Mifflin over Upper St. Clair 35-30. So TJ, Connellsville, Mount Lebanon, Peters Township, and West Mifflin, your top five.
And this was a match that we knew was going to be tight between Connellsville and Thomas Jefferson. I mean, it was a 1-point match previously, and this time around it was only 2. So definitely some close matchups. In fact, there was a lot of the same matchups here. One of the guys who came big for Connellsville was Jared Kessler, the freshman. He beat Mikey Zakor from Thomas Jefferson 9-7, and Alex Weber was able to beat Casper Hinckley 5-2. So
Section 3, your champion was Seneca Valley. They do it in tremendous fashion. They beat Hampton 62-6. North Allegheny had to go to criteria. You called it last week or earlier this week with Butler. 34-33 criteria D. North Allegheny uses to win. But Seneca Valley ends up beating North Allegheny 56-18 in the final. Butler does get third over Hampton, 48-19. Indiana, your fifth-place team, 36-30 over Armstrong. So Seneca Valley, North Allegheny, Butler, Hampton, and Indiana.
I was so excited when this happened because I was like, I cannot wait to say to Greg, I told you so. Because you were like, oh, yeah, North Allegheny.
I thought they'd be a little more lopsided. I agree.
It wasn't, right?
No.
It was.
And I thought they might actually push Seneca Valley a little bit. I didn't expect it to be close, but at least be a little bit closer than a 56-18 score.
Wasn't even close.
Section 4, Cannon-McMillan ends up the champion in Section 4. They do it with a 60-15 win over Trinity. Waynesburg did defeat South Fayette 56-18, but Cannon-Mac beats Waynesburg. Not as close as you may have thought it would be, 42-25. For first place, Trinity beats South Fayette for third, 48-36, and Chartiers Valley, your fifth place team, 39-37 over West Allegheny. So Cannon-Mac, Waynesburg, Trinity, South Fayette, and Chartiers Valley.
Cannon-Mac, I mean, they just really wrestled tough here. I mean, some of these guys that came up so big, and you're right, I was surprised by the difference in the score, 42-25, as you mentioned. But Cannon-Mac won all the toss-up matches, essentially. Kenny Heyman beat Colton Stone King 13-7. The biggest match of the night came at 145 pounds, where Tanner Rohaley from Cannon-Mac decisioned Trey Howard from Waynesburg 6-4 in overtime. Trey Howard's a guy who's been ranked as in the top 5 in the state. Rohaley's a guy who's still kind of battling back from an injury. So for him to come away with that win was huge. Alex Hendel as well at 220 pounds. He beat Ryan Howard 3-2. So really, really good showing by those Cannon-Mac guys. But you turn that around. You get 3 decisions instead of getting those 3 decisions. You're in trouble, right? So there was a lot of matches here that could have went either way, I think.
How much different is Cannon-Mac with a 100% or near 100% Tanner Rohaley? I mean, you look at the quad meet, and he was just not himself. He was not wrestling strong at all because of all the injuries that he had, and he ends up sitting out for the last month or so. But, boy, winning a match against Trey Howard, that just tells you he may be back and ready to roll for the Big Macs, and that's a huge pickup for them.
Yeah, it is. I mean, he's going to be a difference maker. I said this last year about him. He was a sort of an X factor here. If he did well, the team did well. So you'd like to see him healthy. At Escape to Rock, he was a little banged up as well. So for him to be back, it's a good time to have him in the lineup for the Big Macs.
So you look at the championships, the team portion for AAA and how they are seeded. Kiski area is the number 1 seed. Seneca Valley, your number 2. Hempfield, number 3. Cannon-McMillan, your number 4. So the 4 teams from the quad meet end up being the top 4 teams. Thomas Jefferson is your number 5. Waynesburg, number 6. Norwin, number 7. And Connellsville, number 8. First look at break down the top 4 and then expand to the top 8. Do you like it?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, you look at the top 4, and I think anyone, if those 4 teams that we said were going to win and do what they were supposed to, we knew these 4 teams were going to be the top 4 based on the quad meet, right? So that in itself was a preview of what we're going to see here in the next couple weeks, and I think Kiski's earned that right, and Seneca Valley, obviously, considering what they did last year and what they did this year at the quad meet. I'm happy that they went with these 4.
And how thankful was the committee to have that quad meet to happen? Because you
huge.
May not put Hempfield ahead of Cannon-McMillan without it.
Sure, yeah, you definitely may not. And if that was the case, Hempfield would be on the top half with Kiski, where they just lost to Kiski. So now you give them a shot. But I like that Waynesburg Mount Lebanon match too. I mean, that Waynesburg gets past Mount Lebanon, and Hempfield's in there. Hempfield Waynesburg could be a pretty interesting semifinal, in my opinion. And same with the Cannon-Mac Thomas Jefferson one. So I think Kiski and Seneca Valley are definitely the favorites to get to the finals, but anything's possible.
I think there's going to be a lot of good matchups here in this AAA side, because you look at the first round on Monday night will be South Fayette and Indiana at 6 o'clock, and Hampton and Chartiers Valley at 6. South Fayette, Indiana feed into Kiski. Hampton, Chartiers Valley feed into Hempfield. At 7:30, Peters Township and Franklin Regional, West Mifflin and Trinity. Peters Township and Franklin feed into Cannon-Mac. West Mifflin and Trinity feed into Seneca Valley. Those matches are all at Cannon-Mac. But out of those teams, can any of them knock off the top 4? Franklin Regional is a team that we've talked about as far as being from Section 1. They have 5 solid teams from Section 1. Can they test Cannon-McMillan? We'll see. But right there in that same quadrant, Thomas Jefferson against Greensburg-Salem. That could be a good one, too.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I would not look past Greensburg-Salem. We saw they did really well in the section, and I think that it's going to be a tight match. I think Thomas Jefferson does have a little bit too much for them, but Franklin Regional, I mean, again, they're a good team. They have solid guys, but where they're hurting, they're hurting. Where they have holes, their holes are pretty big. So that's an issue. I do think Canon-Mac, especially what they did to Waynesburg, I definitely like them coming out of that quadrant to meet Kiski. I think we're going to see it. I hate to be boring, but I think the top 4 seeds are going to advance here to the semifinals at Norwin. And but I think you're right. There's going to be some matches here that are going to be intriguing. Like you said, Waynesburg. I really think Waynesburg would match up well with Hempfield. So we'll find out soon.
Do you like the 5, 6, 7, 8 pairing with Thomas Jefferson, Waynesburg, Norwin, and Connellsville, or would you do it any different?
No, I would be fine with that. I'm fine with where they are. I think they've all earned the right to be where they are. I don't think you can really argue. If I'm one of those teams, I don't think I can make a valid argument to why I should be here. It's not like one team was significantly better than the other and that they had some outlandish reason why. No, I think the seating committee did a wonderful job here in the AAA bracket to get everything correct, in my opinion, based on the results of this year.
So the matches on Wednesday, they're at Kiski, Canon-Mac, Hempfield, and Seneca Valley Wrestling at 6 o'clock, with the winners wrestling at 7:15. On Saturday is when the semifinals and the first and third place matches will take place. They're at 4 p.m. and at 6 p.m., and they're at Norwin this year. Interesting enough, Double A's, which we'll talk about Double A in a couple of minutes, but theirs was at 12 o'clock and at 2 o'clock. So maybe the committee has heard us talking about it over the last couple of years, Jeff, and heard us say that it's tough having them all at the same time. So realistically, you can see the championship in both Double A and Triple A this year.
Realistically, yeah, you could.
It's not Chartiers Houston for Double A, so it's a little bit of a drive, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt. Unless you're like super diehard, I doubt you're gonna attend both. But yes, in theory you could. Greg, you're giving yourself way too much credit. I highly doubt that the committee is listening to us and saying, "Oh, I think we should change the times." I just think it happened to be that way, the way the times are.
You don't think it's because they listen to the show and Phil, talks to us on the show or anything like that?
No.
So you give no credit the fact that we do the show every week and people listen, huh?
I mean, I just don't think it. I think it's fun. I think it's good conversation, but I don't think it's as impactful as you would think, I guess.
Even a guy like you with all the clout you have?
I don't know what you're talking about, clout. I don't know what you're talking about.
So predictions here in AAA, Jeff. We have Kiski, Canon-Mac, Hempfield, and Seneca Valley. You're saying could all basically come out as chalk going into the semifinals.
I do, and
so where do we see them 1, 2, 3, and 4?
I think that's where we're going to see it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think. I mean, I'd really. Again, I hate to be so boring, but I think Kiski's the best team here. I don't think that they. I think that they have so much flexibility with what they can do up top. They can move guys around. They can insert guys in. I think they have too much flexibility. Where they're going to hurt is down below. 106, 113, 120. They need to figure out what they're doing down there. But from 32 up, I mean, they're solid. They're really, really solid from 32 up. So, yes, they will be pushed. We saw that at the quad meet, and I think you're going to see it again against a team like Canon-Mac, right? I think Canon-Mac is going to have a different approach to this match. I don't foresee it coming down to the last match, but I would definitely see it happen where, these two are going to probably try to get different guys matched up in different areas. So I do think that it's going to be Kiski and Canon-Mac in the one semifinal. I do believe Hempfield. I think they get past. I was very impressed with how they wrestled at the quad meet, just really dismantling Canon-Mac. So to beat Canon-Mac like they did, obviously they have a very tough lineup. Now, that was before everyone dropped down, like Ty Linzenmigler coming down and some other guys moving down. So, but again, I like their upper weights. I mean, you look at how good like Isaiah Vance is. I mean, he's huge to have those points. I mean, you're almost guaranteed 6 every time, right? Dylan Ferretti, although he did get pinned by Kuhn, he's a guy who's pretty solid for him. Justin Kramer's pretty solid for him. So against a team like Canon-Mac, that pays off, right? So Seneca Valley is kind of the question mark, in my opinion. It depends on who shows up and who actually comes and competes. If Chanchier comes out and wrestles like he did at the Reynolds duels, they're going to be in good shape. If Nick Montalbano comes out and wrestles like he did at the Reynolds duels, they're going to have issues, right? He's got to not give up 6 points, and he's got to get decisions where he needs them to. So Seneca Valley, though, they just don't have enough in those upper weights, right? And that's their Achilles heel. They're one of the best teams in the state from 106 to 145, 152. However, from there, it sort of drops off. So I don't think they're going to have enough.
So you see them being the second place team, or falling in the third?
I do believe that they're going to be. I do believe that they beat Hempfield, but I also think that they're not going to have enough for Kiski.
I agree.
I think the closest semifinal match is going to be that Hempfield Seneca Valley match. I think that's going to be a barn burner. I think you're going to see a lot of different matchups that we didn't see at the quad meet, and but I still think Seneca Valley finds a way to win that.
I think Canamac matches up pretty well with Kiski, so we're going to see how that plays out. But I think Kiski is your top team. I think Seneca Valley is your number 2, but I'm going Canamac for number 3 over Hempfield. I think with the addition of Rohaley back and the things that they can do with the lineup a little bit, I think Canamac ends up knocking Hempfield off.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean, they would have to get the matchups that they want. They're going to have to get bonus points, and they're going to have to have guys come up big for him, like Giomar Ramos. He can't get pinned by Vance. He's some guys like Evan Miller need to step up, and yeah, I mean Rohaley's, but that to me is a question mark. You know, what Rohaley are we going to see? Are we going to see the guy that we saw against Trey Howard, or a guy who's banged up, right? So. And I think Kenny Heyman's a big part of that. Kenny Heyman, I'm so impressed with the way Kenny Heyman's been wrestling this year. I'm just really excited about him as a wrestler and seeing how he does in the postseason. But I'm not mad at you for saying that. I disagree. I mean,
and we're supposed to, right? Sometimes, yeah. If we agree on everything, it'd be really boring. No one would listen.
Well, maybe they would. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's that third and fourth place match is always an interesting one for me. Like it always is. I mean, because crazy things happen sometimes. Somebody goes out and just pulls off a crazy win. You're like, wow, how did that happen? Because it's a heat of the moment. You got this team that's really trying to get that spot in Hershey, kind of like Seneca Valley last year. I mean, that was so big of them to do. So.
Right, no doubt about it. You look at AA and their results from this past Wednesday in Section 1. Burgettstown had a pair of close wins, but they end up winning the section. They beat McGuffey 48-30, Best Center over Washington 54-15, and Burgettstown wins it all with a 39-34 win over Best Center. McGuffey in third place with a 54-12 win, and South Park over Bentworth for fifth, 39-24. So Burgettstown, Best Center, McGuffey, Washington, and South Park, your top 5. Pretty impressive for Burgettstown to knock off a pair of teams in McGuffey and Best Center. I was very impressed with Burgettstown. When I looked back at these and looked at some of these boxes, I mean, Burgettstown really came out and wrestled tough. I mean, they beat a really solid McGuffey 40-30, as you said. And then really, I mean, Best Center, you're thinking, okay, well, Burgettstown's got to be a little bit favored here maybe after beating McGuffey. And, they took care of business. It was a tight match, but I was very impressed with the way Burgettstown wrestled. And I think they're a kind of a dark horse here. Yeah, they really are. I mean, they're a team that has solid guys throughout, but they don't have that kind of big star power sometimes. But they have kids in every way who are going to compete, which is huge for a AA team. That's really big. Yeah, and you look at the matches and the results from Section 1, and every guy was in their match and wrestling tough. So big section win for Burgettstown. In Section 2, the big upset came Quaker Valley knocking off Freedom 36-35. Keystone Oaks beat Laurel 46-34, and Quaker Valley over Keystone Oaks 43-33. Freedom ends up finishing third, 59-12 over Laurel, and Hopewell over Beaver for fifth place, 48-30. So Quaker Valley, Keystone Oaks, Freedom, Laurel, and Hopewell, your top 5.
I mean, that had to be the biggest result of maybe even of all the AA and AAA combined was Quaker Valley beating Freedom 36-35, as you mentioned. That's huge for them as a program. I mean, they're a young program. They've only been around for a handful of years, and here they are as section champions. And then they followed up with a 43-33 win over Keystone Oaks. They got to be super excited about where they're at and how their team is wrestling. So it's not, and we kind of said that right in the beginning of the year. We said, how good can Quaker Valley be? They have a lot of big names, but what about those other guys, right? So they're showing that they belong, right? So good showing by Quaker Valley.
Yeah, Freedom not quite 100%, I think, in their lineup, and that hurt them a little bit. But Quaker Valley, and then avenging the loss against Keystone Oaks too, and subsection wrestling throughout the regular season to get to that championship. So a couple of big wins for Quaker Valley, and I think they're the one that catches everyone by surprise, because now, especially for the seating committee, and we're going to talk to Phil Mary just about that. Because where do you put Quaker Valley?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because you knock off Freedom and you win a section title, and really before then you probably weren't talking about them as a top 4 team. So where you put them into place. One team you do know where you put into place is Burrell. They end up winning Section 3 for how many years now?
48 years, I think. It's a long time. They've been winning titles for a very long time. So
and they beat Elizabeth Ford 44-24, Derry over Valley 60-19. Burrell beats Derry in the championship 46-14. Elizabeth Forward over Valley 60-24 for third. Southmoreland over Highlands 45-24. So Burrell, Derry, Elizabeth Forward, Valley, and Southmoreland.
Yeah, and I wasn't really too surprised to see how this would finish. I mean, Burrell did what they had to do against Derry. Maybe a little bit more lopsided than we expected, 20 points, but Burrell's really tough, and Derry's hurting a little bit. So, but now it leaves it up for interpretation for the seating committee, because AAA, pretty easy. AA, not so much.
Yeah, and you look at how the bracket was seeded here in AA. Burrell gets the number 1 seed. I think that was the easiest question to answer. But then from there, how do you seed it? Do you put Derry into the mix at the 2-3? Do you put the section champs at 2-3? Well, they give Burgettstown the number 2, Quaker Valley the number 3, Best Center number 4, Derry at number 5, Elizabeth Forward 6, Freedom 7, and Keystone Oaks number 8. What do you think?
I think I'm excited if I'm Freedom, because I think they're on a good side of the bracket. If I'm Derry, I'm not so happy, right? So where they're sitting at, listen. They had you're in this position. You're not going to please everybody, because there's so much wide open. I mean, AA outside of Burrell, there's a lot of questions marks that you can just kind of throw them around, and you can make cases for any one of these teams to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You can make arguments for each one of those teams. So I think they did the logical thing, and that's put Burgettstown at number 2. I don't think that's a bad.
I like Burgettstown number 2 as well.
I think of the section champions, of the 3 section champions, you look at, all right, Burrell's 1. Burgettstown, I think, is your number 2, especially after what they did to McGuffey. And then that's where it kind of gets a little bit more fuzzy. Like Quaker Valley, as you said, like where do you stick them in at? Best Center. I don't know. Like, I think you could have made an argument that, Derry could have been where Best Center is, or Freedom could have been where Best Center is. I don't know. You could have made lots of arguments there, but the way the bracket falls, I'm happy if I'm Freedom, because you're on that bottom half. You get a shot at Burgettstown. You could have a potential rematch with Quaker Valley. And then on the top half, though, if I'm Derry, I'm thinking, man, I'm going to have to go through possibly Best Center and then rematch with Burrell, right? And, that's no fun. So, I don't know. I mean, this was I kind of was curious to see. I was more intrigued by the AA bracket than AAA, because you just didn't really know how it was going to fall out, especially after the wrenches, the wrenches that got thrown in, like Quaker Valley. I mean, this changes things, because you say if Freedom wins it, right? Freedom wins their section. I think they're the second seed.
Yeah,
I think so.
I mean, you got to like how Burgettstown wrestled this past Wednesday night. So I think giving them a 2 or a 3 would have been perfect. But yeah, Freedom losing definitely threw a wrench into it. But are you surprised they at least didn't put Derry as far as on the bottom half, so they would be away from Burrell? I mean, I'm surprised. If you don't put Derry as a 2 or a 3, I'm almost inclined to put them as a 6.
Put them at 6 or put them at 8, for all I care.
Put Freedom as the 5 and put Derry as the 6, and let Derry see if they can beat Quaker Valley.
Or even put them at 8. I mean, as long as they're separated from Burrell, it would be okay.
I think if you look at his bracket, I think everyone coming in with the mindset, especially of how well Burrell's wrestled this year and how highly ranked they are in the state, not only just by us, but by others as well, that Burrell's going to be the heads-on favorite to win this. So it's really that 2 and 3 spot that are up for grabs that everybody wants to get. Again, I like Burgestown's the number 2, but I just think Derry, I think they are in that top 3 mix. I think they really are.
I guess I don't know if you can. You look at it logically, and what makes sense is, maybe they could be in the top 3, but I don't know. Like, you can't discount what Burgestown did, and you can't discount what Quaker Valley did. Quaker Valley beat a very tough Freedom team, a Freedom team that I think is, as I mentioned, if they win their section, I think they're the 2nd seed. So you can't discount the fact that Quaker Valley. I just wish that Derry would be on the bottom half. I don't care what you seed, you put them at in seeding. Just if you separate them from Burrell, I think it at least makes it okay. You think you should belong? Go ahead and prove it. So now. They're not going to turn around 20 points against Burrell if they even can get to Burrell, because they're going to have to beat South Park and then the winner of Southmore Best Center. So, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think Freedom is sitting better just on the bottom half, because I think that I think they're going to match up well with Burgettstown, depending on who's healthy, who's not. But then potentially, I think Quaker Valley, are they for real, right? So. I don't know. The bottom half is intriguing because you just don't know.
Freedom ends up getting seated a spot higher than Keystone Oaks, and in a way it's good for them because they stay away from Burrell. Even though Keystone Oaks finishes 2nd, Freedom 3rd. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely, I am. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I think that was a no-brainer on the committee's part to say, well, yeah, we're going to – that doesn't – just because the way the brackets fell, right, in the section tournament – doesn't mean that they should be penalized for the fact that they finished 3rd as opposed to 2nd because they lost at 1 point to Quaker Valley.
Yeah, and didn't have that opportunity to wrestle Keystone Oaks at any point during the season or in this postseason so far. I agree with that. But really, if you look at Elizabeth Forward, they finished 3rd, Derry 2nd. You got to be happy for them.
For Elizabeth Forward?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, like I said, we could be coming back and talking about this and having a completely busted bracket. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see some crazy upsets happen here in AA, but because you just don't know. I mean, it's all so much more wide open than AAA that it's really anybody's game.
And usually in AA, there's 4 or 5 teams that really are like, okay, these are the 4 or 5 teams that are going to compete. You could really point your finger at just about any of these teams here and say they could be number 2 or number 3. You look at the bottom half alone, I think the way we're talking, Quaker Valley, Freedom, and Burgestown could all be in the final, any one of those 3 teams. And if you look at the 3rd place team, Derry and Best Center will be a good matchup.
I agree.
It'll be a good match. So either one of those teams could be your 3rd place team, or any of those 3 we mentioned in the bottom half.
Listen, outside of Burrell, because you look at Burrell and they're on a different playing field, right? They're on a different level. But outside of them, as I mentioned, like, this is very wide open. So you had mentioned, I mean, outside of Burrell, those other teams that qualify for the state tournament, I mean, it could be any one of them. It really could. It could be any one of them. So I'm excited just to see how it plays out, because you just don't know. Like, I mean, AAA, I think it's just going to be the quad all over again. So I already saw that. Why would I be excited about it? But I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll go to both.
Yeah, you can, because they're separated by time.
Because they listen to you.
Us. This is a team, Jeff. Okay, us.
Okay.
All right. See, there's a difference between you and me, pal.
What's that?
You take credit for a lot of the things where I say it's us. This is a team. PA Power is a team.
You never hear me say me, I.
I'm not. Do we need to get some of the other PA Power people on the show?
Get them on here. That's fine.
Let's give Mark Billet a call right now. I bet you he'd side with me.
Well, he would do anything just to put me in a position where he felt like I was at a position of disadvantage. He lives for that.
Yeah.
So all of you.
Oh, I just gave us credit, not you credit, or me credit.
You guys all drive me nuts.
You employ us, so.
Well, yeah.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. Slim pickings, I guess, but
wow,
it's kind of like the AA bracket here. You just anyone, you kind of take anybody here at this point. Oh
man,
because it really is. I mean, you just don't know. I am truly excited about the AA bracket and seeing how it pans out.
Wednesday, the matches are at Burrell, Best Center, Quaker Valley, and Burgettstown, 6 and 7:15. And we mentioned the start times during the AAA. So the semifinals are at 12 o'clock, and the first and third place matches are at 2 o'clock, and they are at Chartiers, Houston. And joining us now to talk about the WPIAL Team Championships is a member of the steering committee and one of our good friends, Phil Murray. Phil, thanks for joining us on the show.
So no question. I mean,
well, Phil, we talked about the AAA bracket and how it's in a way pretty easy to seed for you guys, and really the quad meet helped out a lot with that. Were you guys pretty thankful that Cannon McMillan hosted that back in December?
No question. You know what? I wouldn't say unanimous. I would say there was a good consensus on 5 and 6 that, there was a lot of discussion.
Yeah, and obviously not too many surprises as far as the section championships go to throw any wrinkles into that. But from there, from the conversation, how did it go from 5 through 8? Was it pretty unanimous as far as how they would go from there?
They've got a strong lineup. So, we had some good discussion, and the consensus was to go with TJ in that 5th spot.
You know what, Phil, and that's funny you said, because when we were talking earlier, Greg and I said that, because of the quad meet, the only really discussion probably was that TJ and Waynesburg won, and you have sort of the newcomers TJ that, is kind of coming on strong, as you said, a great Allegheny County tournament, and then Waynesburg, obviously a lot of tradition there. So looking at the bracket, there's a lot of good matchups here.
No question.
I think you guys did a phenomenal job of getting things right. Double-A, though, completely different, right? Kind of more of a mess, in my opinion. It was a lot harder outside of Burrell to figure out. Talk us through that Double-A bracket. If you spent 5 minutes on Triple-A, Double-A probably took at least a half hour.
They're pretty powerful and are pretty much a pretty good favor to win in that tournament. But from Burgess, and again, a lot of things were changed last night. I happen to have the site at Burgettstown, where to a lot of people, I think Burgettstown was a surprise winner there.
Right.
But they had a great, McGuffey came in a little bit banged up last night, but they had a great matchup with Best Center. And, you look at the Quaker Valley match, 36-35 over Freedom. You got Derry returning champs, It was a tough call, that 2 through 7. But again, we felt that in any time that we're seeding, we're going to look at those section champs first. The Burgettstown winning theirs, Quaker Valley winning theirs. Now, does that guarantee them a seed? No, but it puts them at the top of our list to look at. Somebody needs to step up for us to have a clear cut say that this team is better. Like if you look in AAA, we knew that the loser of Hempfield and Kiski, one was going to be at the top, one was going to be at the bottom. We didn't see that with Barry or, any of the other teams to separate them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, they got some studs there.
You know exactly what you're saying, and you kind of are stealing our material now, because Greg and I said the same thing. We said outside of Burrell, you look at a lot of these teams coming in, especially up to last night, you didn't really know who was going to be able to push them. And as you said, Quaker Valley, they threw a wrench into things, and that really, you're right. Yeah, because you figure
like you
Freedom
said,
wins that section.
That.
They could probably be the second seed, and then you have McGuffey fall into, as you said, a really strong Burgettstown. I think the top two here, I think that was a spot on, right? You have to go Burrow and Burgettstown, and then, like you said, from there it gets a little bit more murky, I guess.
They had some. I think they ended up with 4 losses, and 3 of them were to Waynesburg, Hempfield, and Connellsville. Where, and the only one that really blew them out was Hempfield.
Right, exactly. Right. Right.
Yeah, I would say a little bit. And I I'm looking at their. I know they had a.
Yeah, I know you mentioned you wouldn't separate any other team from Borough like you would with Kiski and Hempfield, but was there any consideration of putting Derry, if not a 2-3, into the 6th spot, so that way then they were on at least the opposite end of Borough?
Team that were there last year, but and we don't, whenever guys on a committee bring up the term cosmetically, I don't like to hear that. We don't like to hear that because we're trying to see that. We want the 4 best teams in the semis. So cosmetically, we really don't care what it looks like as long as the top 4 seeds we feel are in their positions and go. And again, those 2 through 7, they could come out 2 through 7, 7 through 2. So it could come out anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Phil, and I agree with you there because, like you said, Derry, despite the fact that they're on the same side with Borough, I mean, if they want to get into those top 4, they're going to have to beat a good either Beth Center or Southmoreland team if they can handle business against South Park. So you allow them that, I think, more of a chance, as you would say, to cosmetically, they could get into the top 4 based on that quadrant at Beth Center. Because I think there's going to be a lot of really good matchups in Double A. I was telling this earlier to Greg. It's like in AAA, okay, I've seen the story. I think it's going to end up like it did at the quad meet. But I think in Double A, there's a lot more excitement around it because you have those Quaker Valleys and those Burgettowns, like Beth Centers. How are they going to be able to do against some of these teams here?
No, I got to tell you, there was a lot of good discussion about Elizabeth Fort. That they were, that the improvements they made, and they've got some tough individuals. And I know
did you
they
consider
lost
putting Freedom in the same little part with Quaker Valley, or was it do you at least want to separate them so they didn't wrestle in the quarters?
A bit ago, but I know they those are tough kids, and we actually saw them at the Chartiers tournament, and they're getting better all the time.
Yeah.
So we noticed as part of the scheduling, you guys have the semifinals and the finals for AA set for 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock at Char Houston, and AAA semifinals and finals at 4 o'clock and at 6 o'clock at Norwin. So realistically, if you're a wrestling fan, you can see both championships in AA and AAA. I said to Jeff, you guys, after you've been joining us for a number of years on the show, Phil, you guys our discussions must have finally got into you a little bit, but Jeff said you've paid no attention to us. So, what's the story
Greg,
here? Why did we get a little separation on the finals times?
To think that through, but really it was something going on.
I told you, Phil.
So,
man,
you just crushed Greg's hopes. I said
we're gonna have to find new guests next year, I think.
No.
You know what? We've had the
well, you got to be happy with having it. Sure, Houston and
take away South
Norwin's. It's a great spot, I think, as well. It kind of more centralized
and possibly Derry.
Are there any ones you're looking in particular that you're looking forward to seeing?
It's going to make for a great atmosphere, and we're excited to have them, and looking forward to it. And again, if you look at AAA, I'm kind of disappointed I can't make it there because that quad meet.
Right.
Kiski beat Canamac 36-33. They beat Seneca Valley 39-32. Hempfield actually beat Canamac up a little bit, but those matches were so competitive that it could go either way.
They did. Yeah, I agree with you. I told Frank that at the quad meet. This was great dual meet wrestling in December, which at that time we're getting ready for Powerade. We're thinking individually, but that was a heck of an atmosphere for the dual tournament. So I think we're going to get another example of that
But the good thing is you got two programs there
we're looking forward
that are willing to step out. And with Tom Doherty at Hempfield and the Seneca Valley guys, those 4 teams aren't going away. So I look for those guys to try to do the same thing next year, at Canamac again. So it was,
he's not
again, it made our job a lot easier. Well, hey, I appreciate it. You know what? And we appreciate what you guys do with all the wrestling and everything. And, Jeff, with your PA Power, we're appreciative of everything because we all know
Phil,
what
we
this
appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your evening to join us and talking about the brackets. And kudos to you guys for another job well done. And we look forward to seeing how it all plays out this week.
You got it. You guys have a good night. Thanks again.
Well, we appreciate the feelings are definitely mutual here. So looking forward to it. Have a good weekend at Char Houston, and I'm sure it'll be a lot to discuss afterwards. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks again to Phil Mary for joining us on the show. I'm a little disappointed that they don't listen and try to.
Well, I don't think it's that they don't listen. I mean, I think we get fans and committee members that listen to us, but. The suggestion. Phil was 100% right. It was just
It's been a suggestion I think we've had for years. Well, at least when they switched the format a little bit.
Yeah,
but
I honestly hardly remember us talking about it, so it couldn't have been that big a deal.
Yeah, but you have 2 different shows. You got all these rankings and articles and things you do.
Yeah, but
you can't even remember what you did probably 3 hours ago.
No, I can, but.
About 3 days ago?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I don't even know. No, you're right. I have no idea.
Well, again, we appreciate Phil for joining us. Always good to talk to him, especially before the team tournament. Make sure you check out the matches here coming up this week. We won't have a show on Monday since there'll be matches going on for the AAA side of things. And then make sure you stay with us, though. The following Monday, we'll be breaking down the WPIAL Team Championships, both AA and AAA, and we'll be getting you set for the state tournament. I know Jeff's looking forward to it. He's been looking at all the different districts and regions, and should be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and especially with how wide open that AA and AAA, there's going to be a lot of head-to-head matches that we're going to see that could have implications for the individual tournament as well. So a lot of ranked wrestlers going at it. So, yeah, a lot of fun here. PA Power Wrestling is going to keep you up to date on everything that's going on. And we're going to have brackets on the site from all the districts in all of the state of Pennsylvania. So if you want to know what's going on in District 10, District 1, we'll have brackets for you on the site. We're going to have updated rankings. We have updated rankings right now. It's a lot. This is it, man. It doesn't slow down ever.
No, it's only going to intensify over these next couple of weeks. So make sure you stay with PA Power Wrestling. Keep it on the top of your tab. Make sure you save it off for us. Make sure you check out our Twitter as well as Facebook, wherever you follow us. Make sure you continue to do that and tell others too as well, because we're going to have everything for you result-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And our college podcast, they're doing a really good job. In fact, they just interviewed our former college host, Mason Beckman, and they're talking a lot about some of the matches that are coming up here in college. So we got it all for you here at PA Power.
Make sure you stay with us. War Up on the WPIAL next Monday as we get you a full recap of the WPIAL Championships. For my broadcast partner, Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to War Up on the WPIAL.